Israel stages quantum entanglement. Budanov's evil Grin shakes Moscow. USAF cross Taiwan Strait median line. Play lies flat. Quantum entanglement non-stop. Hezbollah rolls their eyes. On the morning of September 17th, Hezbollah members in Lebanon experienced a series of Pager explosions. Whether attached to their waist, placed in cars, or used during funerals, all Pagers blew up completely. Not only were Hezbollah militant secret identities exposed, but hospitals in Lebanon were also instantly overwhelmed. Reports indicate over 4,000 injured, 11 killed on the spot, and 500 left completely blind. Even the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon wasn't spared, losing one eye and damaging the other. Leaders of Hezbollah from Iran and Syria also couldn't escape unscathed. Even if the pagers blew up, Hezbollah quickly switched to walkie-talkies. But the next day, walkie-talkies also exploded, followed by vehicle blasts. All kinds of electronic devices from phones to radios to laptops, even household solar systems went up in flames. In just 1 hour on the afternoon of September 18th, dozens of such explosions occurred across Lebanon. The damage was far greater than just Pager explosions. Looks like next year's Hezbollah parade might go something like this. Hezbollah bought these pagers to avoid being tracked by Israeli drones, trained by the CCP. These devices were simple and secure enough to dodge Western surveillance, but it turned out to be a total embarrassment. Although Israel denies involvement, everyone can see it was their doing. Just watch the Mossad chief entering headquarters to cheers from his team, no need to say more. The question is, weren't these pagers just powered by a size 5 battery? How did they become explosive sources? Some say it was a Trojan virus, others claim battery overload, underestimating Israel much. Intelligence experts believe this was a real high-tech move using nanotechnology, tampering directly with the pager's electronic components like resistors and capacitors. The reason is that whether it's making motherboards, electronic parts, or various resistors and capacitors, these devices almost always use modified plastics. These plastics aren't ordinary, they're high polymers with very complex molecular structures. The terrifying part is that the West might have already mixed nanomaterials into these high polymers, which can be remotely controlled. Before these nanomaterials were mixed into the high polymers, the West pre-entangled the nanomaterials with control systems. In other words, these seemingly ordinary plastic parts already contain materials in a state of quantum entanglement. The power of quantum entanglement lies in that no matter how far apart the entangled particles are thousands of miles apart, if one side's state changes, the other side synchronizes instantly. This means Western labs or military control centers can alter one side's material structure, and the implanted nanomaterials on the other side will change simultaneously. In the case of the pager explosions, the pre-implanted nanomaterials in the high polymers had their molecular structures altered into explosive molecules like PET plastic explosives through quantum entanglement. Of course, just turning into explosives isn't enough, someone needs to press the detonator. This is where the US EC-130 electronic warfare plane comes into play. Reportedly, this aircraft was conducting electronic jamming missions along Lebanon's coast, specifically targeting Hezbollah's communication signals. Whenever Hezbollah issued a command, the EC-130 would send a precise trigger signal to detonate the explosives that had been transformed by the nanomaterials. This operation's deterrent effect is greater than a nuclear bomb. Those Hezbollah foot soldiers not yet equipped with such devices will probably need to reconsider their career paths. Imagine if Ukraine adopts this tactic, would Russian phones become time bombs too? Israel's move definitely taught the world a tough lesson. Budanov's sinister grin, Putin in pain. After the massive pager explosions on September 17th, Ukrainian intelligence chief Budanov's mysterious smile made headlines. His half-squinted eyes and chin resting on his fingers seemed to contemplate even more clandestine plans. Sure enough, the next day, Ukraine launched a shocking big explosion. 100 drones bombarded the Toropets missile and rocket storage facilities in Russia's Tver Oblast West End, creating a mushroom cloud. Even the seismograph detected a 2.8 magnitude earthquake, and windows 5 kilometers away shattered. This explosion burned for over 5 hours, visible even from space. Nearby villages were razed and many went missing. A local resident had blood flowing from ears due to the shockwave, prompting immediate evacuations in nearby areas and urgent school closures. Even Moscow, 300 kilometers east of Toropets, has heard the explosions. The attack destroyed over 30,000 tons of ammunition, including Iskander missiles, North Korea's Nin-23 ballistic missiles, S-300's 400 air defense systems, and Grad multiple rocket launchers. With losses totaling $217 million, Putin is in pain. Ukraine didn't just bomb cleanly, they also hacked the Toropets Municipal District website, proudly displaying Budanov's photo next to the arms depot explosion news, clearly telling Putin, I did it, deal with it. Simultaneously, a flammable materials warehouse 150 kilometers northeast of Moscow exploded, followed by massive fires. Ukraine's actions are legally classified as self-defense under international law, given Russia's unprovoked aggression. Ukraine has the right to retaliate, and the extent depends on Budanov's mood. On the battlefield, Ukraine is short on bullets, so they deployed incendiary grenades. Dragon's breath grenades emit sparks and flames up to 30 meters when launched. Outside the battlefield, Zelensky has unveiled a peace plan, currently undergoing final revisions. Some U.S. officials have reviewed the proposal and find it highly feasible. Now, the capital markets are signaling Ukraine's impending victory. A private auction of a Kiev downtown hotel sold for over $2.5 billion near Rivne, indicating a shift in the situation. U.S. forces crossed Taiwan Strait median line, plus lumps. U.S. fighter jets and warships have directly crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait. This topic will likely leave the CCP gasping for breath. Retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Grin has proposed that the U.S. should permanently deploy naval and coastal defense resources along Taiwan's coast in international waters, such as ships equipped with Aegis combat systems. Meanwhile, the THAAD system should not only be deployed in Taiwan, but also considered for the Senkaku Islands and northern Philippine Islands. U.S. fighter jets crossing the Taiwan Strait median line could even operate alongside the Republic of China Air Force additionally. The U.S. plans to assist Taiwan in building submarine bases on the eastern side, providing more protection for Taiwan's newly built submarines and maintenance services for allied submarines. If necessary, the U.S. doesn't rule out deploying nuclear weapons in Guam or surrounding areas. Colonel Grin is no ordinary figure. He previously served as a military attaché in Israel, specializing in hardcore strategic issues, especially anti-authoritarianism, counterterrorism, irregular warfare, and missile defense. Now, he's a guest researcher at Taiwan's National Defense and Security Academy, a think tank directly under Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense. After Lai Ching-te took office, a new executive director was appointed, bringing in Grin and a Ukrainian expert as resident researchers, clearly aiming to combine lessons from the Russia-Ukraine battlefield with Taiwan's defense strategies to formulate new policies. In his article, The Horn Sounds, Taiwan and the U.S. Need to Take More Action in the Weekly Analysis, Grin clearly states that Taiwan and the U.S. should develop cost-sharing agreements based on the Taiwan Relations Act to restore the balance of power across the strait. This isn't just empty talk. According to the Taiwan Relations Act, the CCP's military expansion has already triggered this law. Look at the military expenditure gap. China's military spending skyrocketed from $20.5 billion in 1999 to $296 billion in 2023, a 15-fold increase. Meanwhile, Taiwan's military budget barely doubled. How can Taiwan defend itself under these circumstances? And this directly leads to a severe imbalance of power, with Taiwan being the threatened party. What's next? Grin has already mapped out a plan for Taiwan. The U.S. and Taiwan can share defense costs, provided Taiwan increases its military spending to over 5% of its GDP. Grin compared this to Israel, whose defense spending has always exceeded 5% of GDP. Taiwan needs to follow suit. If the increased military budget isn't sufficient, the U.S. will cover the gap, significantly upgrading Taiwan's defense systems. Grin's proposal isn't a personal suggestion, it's the result of directives from the U.S. government. Otherwise, he wouldn't casually discuss sensitive topics like nuclear weapon deployment. The key is whether Taiwan is willing to keep up with the U.S.'s pace and continue increasing investments. Decades ago, appeasement policies toward the CCP should have been abandoned long ago. Now, the game rules have changed, and Taiwan needs to adopt new strategic thinking. Currently, Taiwan's military budget is frankly mismanaged. Funds go to marching drills and folding blankets, always thinking about buying new equipment, but ending up not knowing how to use them. Now, Grin's plan points Taiwan in the right direction. The next step is whether Taiwan can secure the necessary funds. If the regional situation escalates, the U.S. might even consider deploying nuclear weapons. Additionally, THAAD systems, Patriot missiles, and air defense warships will be deployed in succession, with nuclear submarines and fighter jets stationed long-term as part of the plan. Taiwan has $580 billion in foreign exchange reserves, which can be raised through issuing bonds and securities to fund defense. Moreover, Taiwan doesn't need to wait for new equipment. They can request some retired gear from the U.S. and other countries, such as Japan's E-2C Hawkeye early warning aircraft or decommissioned U.S. Navy ships. Even second-hand equipment is more reliable than the CCP's new gear. Next up is Lai Ching-te's task: propose plans and increase the budget. Any agreements between the U.S. and China come with conditions depending on the CCP's actions. Decades ago, the CCP neither had the strength nor the guts to cross the Taiwan Strait, but the situation has completely changed. The CCP not only increased its military power, but also dares to publicly provoke, triggering the Taiwan Relations Act's threat clauses. In the past, the U.S. gave the CCP many chances to see if they would improve, but there's clearly no sign of repentance. If the CCP launches an attack, the U.S. will sever ties with Beijing under the Taiwan Relations Act and swiftly take corresponding military actions. Colonel Janai Shi, as a former military attaché in Israel, understands the importance of policy and strategic synergy. His statements are clearly authorized. Following the U.S.'s modus operandi, what Janai Shi refers to as what should be done is not just a proposal but an active action plan the U.S. is preparing. Read more.